to present today some results highlighting the dynamics of the childhood obesity epidemic among first graders in Bulgaria. Those results are based on data collection that took part within the last 15 years within the COSI initiative in Bulgaria, and the analysis of the results presented today was performed in the Department of Food and Nutrition of the National Center of Public Health and Analysis in Bulgaria, led by Professor Веселка Дулева. And my name is Ekaterina Chikova-Ischener. I'm working as a research assistant in the department, and I'll be showing some of the main results as mentioned. As I'm sure you all are well aware, the epidemic of childhood obesity has been growing in scale in the last few decades, and that was the reason WHO to declare it as one of the most serious challenges to public health in the 21st centuries. But it is worth to be noted again and again that regardless of the widespread distribution, the complex etiology, and the serious consequences of overweight and obesity in childhood, those are all largely preventable conditions. And in that regard, the first grade school children are a very suitable age group for an in-depth analysis of the temporal trends in the prevalence of overweight and obesity, as well as studying in-depth the various risk factors. The beginning of the formal education of the students is a good window of opportunity to form new habits related to a healthier lifestyle that might be carried through the later periods of life. In that regard, the participation in the period 2008-2023 of Bulgaria through the Ministry of Health, the National Center of Public Health and Analysis, and the regional health inspectorates in the country in the WHO European Childhood Obesity Surveillance Initiative, for which I'll be from now on referring as to COSI. It plays an important role as a valuable instrument to monitor the trends in the childhood obesity epidemic in Bulgaria. And also it helps us to evaluate the effectiveness of the implemented so far policy measures in the field of nutrition and physical activity. Methodology of the COSI initiative in Bulgaria. It is a national study, design of the study, with 5 rounds so far data collection, which took place between the period of 2008 and 2023 on a nationally representative sample of 7-year-old school children, which makes the results translatable to all the subgroup in Bulgaria of first graders. And so far, in total, have been studied 15,339 first graders, which you can see the scale is really vast for our country. The research is conducted in strict compliance with the protocol developed by WHO. One of the advantages of this study is that height and weight are measured by trained professionals from the regional health inspectorates, which are passing some refreshment course before every round of data collection, and they are using the same standardized anthropometric equipment, which allows for reliability of the obtained results, and also help us to compare the data between the different rounds of the study, as well as to compare the results with other countries that are participating in the initiative. The nutritional status of the first graders is assessed through indicator body mass index for age and the WHO growth reference from 2007 for children and adolescents from 5 to 19 years of age. Also, were used the extended international IOTF cutoffs from 2012 and abdominal obesity was assessed through indicator waist circumference for height. Another additional information on different school and family environments and behavioral characteristics of the first graders was collected through additional 2 questionnaires. In the next slides, I'll present some of the most important results of those 15-year period that we are collecting data. As you may see, from 2008 to 2023, there is a temporal trend for -1 for increase in the prevalences of overweight from 28.2% to 32%, and of obesity from 12.4% to 15.2% among the first graders in Bulgaria. The prevalences of severe obesity in 2023 have reached 4.9%, which is very close to the threshold of 5% above which can be considered as a public health problem. And severe obesity is a condition that is associated with a higher risk of developing of complications such as hypertension, type 2 diabetes, metabolic syndrome, non-alcohol fatty liver disease, and also a higher chance for carrying the obesity through adulthood. Also, those severe obesity among boys, 7-year-old boys, already has become a newly emerged public health problem, and the incidences are increasing through the years, with prevalence of severe obesity among 7-year-old boys in 2023 reaching 6.6%. When assessing the nutritional status of the first graders through the extended international IOTF cutoffs, we are able to confirm the same negative trend for increase in the prevalence of overweight and obesity, but at a lower level. The differences between those two standards, the WHO and the IOTF, are well documented in the scientific literature. As I have mentioned before, a strong plus of the study is the ability to compare the results with other countries. And the ranking of Bulgaria among the other participating countries who studied the prevalence of obesity among 7-year-old boys and girls within this 15-year period is unfortunately worsening, with the last round of data collection that took place internationally between 2022 and 2024, and trying to capture the effect after the COVID-19 pandemic. Unfortunately, the position of the Bulgarian girls with obesity is 3rd, and the Bulgarian boys with obesity is 5th, among 27 other countries that studied the same age group of children. The prevalence of central obesity, which was assessed by indicator waist circumference for age, equal or more than 0.5, those universal cutoff level for all ages, is also showing almost doubling of the prevalences within those 15 years. And as you may see, from 11.9%, they have reached to 20.4% in 2023, with no significant differences between boys and girls. As you may all know, the central obesity is increasing the risk for developing of complications during the childhood, such as hypertension, hyperglycemia, dyslipidemia, and other ones. When assessing the nutritional status of the first graders, depending on the place of their residence and dividing the population into rural and urban population, we are able to demonstrate that in the last 15 years, there has been a serious worsening of the childhood obesity epidemic among the 7-year-old children living in the rural areas. During that period, the prevalences of overweight increased with 50%. The prevalence of obesity almost doubled from 8.1 to 17.2%, and the prevalence of severe obesity almost tripled from 2.7 to 7.8%. In 2023, in the last round of data collection, you may see that the prevalences in the rural population of overweight, obesity, and severe obesity reached and even surpassed those observed in the urban population, where no significant trend for increase is observed within those 15 years. When assessing the socioeconomic status of the family as a risk factor for the nutritional status, disorders of the nutritional status of the children, we have used 3 indicators. Those were the educational status of the family, the income level of the family, and the employment status of the family. And again, within those 15 years, we are able to demonstrate that there has been change into the direction in which this risk factor affects the prevalences of overweight and obesity among the first graders. In the beginning of the study period in 2008, the highest prevalences of overweight and obesity were observed among the group of people from high and middle families with such socioeconomic status, which is observed in economies in transition. After that, during the years with the increase in the purchasing power of the population in Bulgaria, there has happened a shift. And now in the last round of the study in 2023, the children from families with low socioeconomic status are the ones at highest risk for overweight, obesity, and severe obesity, which is characteristic for the Western developed economies. The health status of the families of the first graders is another potential risk factors for disorders in the nutritional status of the children. And through these 15 years, there have been a sharp deterioration in the health status of the family members. The prevalence of hypertension among them increased from 19.5 to 29.4%. The prevalence of diabetes increased almost fourfold from 3.8 to 17.7%, and the prevalence of hypercholesterolemia increased almost 3 times from 4.8 to 15.1%. Those negative those problems in the health status of the families are affecting the children through the genetic predisposition, but also through the lifestyle characteristics in which a child is grown and which it witnesses and learns to copy and repeat. You may see that the group of children that are coming from families that are at high risk, which means that some of the one or more of the members have one or more of those conditions, have increased risk for being with overweight, obesity, and severe obesity. And those results highlight the need when developing and designing programs to fight the childhood obesity epidemic to always include the parents and the family members to help to improve their health status and to direct forces to decrease the prevalence of some preventable risk factors as unhealthy diets, low physical activity, smoking, and alcohol abuse. The nutritional status of the parents within the period 2016-2023, only 7 years, showed a statistically significant trend for worsening with prevalences of overweight and obesity of the mothers and prevalences of obesity of the fathers increasing. Those also affects and becomes a risk factor for the disorders in the nutritional status of first graders. And you may see that the children who are living at a high-risk families for their nutritional status, which means that the both parents are with obesity, have 2 times increased risk for being with overweight, 3 times increased risk for being with obesity, and 4 or almost 5 times increased risk for being with severe obesity compared to the children living in the low-risk families, which means that none of the parents is with overweight. The evaluation of the parents about their child's nutritional status to large extent depends on their awareness about the negative health effects that overweight and obesity in childhood might bring. Throughout the last 7 years, the evaluation of the parents is showing that they are continuously underestimating the nutritional status of their children with overweight and obesity, and overestimating the nutritional status of the children with thinness. And especially large are the discrepancies between the parents of children with obesity. As you may see, only around 1% of those parents can evaluate the weight of their child as significantly above the normal, while the objective assessment is showing that the prevalence of obesity is between 13 and 15%. And this data is showing the need that there should be, again, some programs focused at educating parents about the negative health consequences of overweight and obesity for their children. Also helping them and teaching them how to measure the weight and the height of their children and how to assess it in a right way. And of course, when some changes are happening in the direction of overweight or obesity, measures, early measures to start about changing the lifestyle of the whole family with focus on improving the diet, increasing the physical activity, and also working on other risk factors. When differentiating the group of children based on their nutritional status, we are able to demonstrate that within the group of children with normal weight, around 10% of the parents perceive that weight as such below the normal weight, which prompts for potential risk of overfeeding those children. And also within the group of children with overweight, around 80% of those parents, and within the group of children with obesity, around more than 30% of those parents perceive that weight as normal, which indicates the need of creating a national standardized system for regular measurements at the general practitioner office, and system when some changes in the nutritional status happen to the child, right away there to be measures implemented with the help of the family, and in case the children are with obesity or severe obesity, to be referred to pediatrician for further examination and follow-up. And if you allow me, I would like just to summarize the results that I have just presented. Within this period of 15 years, we are able to demonstrate a temporal trend for a statistically significant increase in the prevalence of overweight and obesity among a nationally representative sample of 7-year-old first graders. Also, the ranking of Bulgaria among the other countries from the COSI initiative that studied the 7-year-old children had shown negative trend for worsening, and in the last round, the position of the Bulgarian 7-year-old girls with obesity is third, and for the 7-year-old boys with obesity, fifth among 27 participating countries. The prevalence of severe obesity among boys at the age of 7 is steadily increasing, exceeding 5% and turning into a newly emerging public health problem that needs and calls for action. There is also a negative trend for a significant increase in the prevalence of first graders with central abdominal obesity, and over the period of 15 years, the levels have almost doubled. Within the same period in the villages, the prevalence of overweight among first graders increased by 50%, obesity doubled, and severe obesity tripled, with levels reaching and exceeding those in the cities where no statistically significant trend for increase was observed. Within the same period, the influence of the socioeconomic status of the families on the nutritional status of first graders changed. At the beginning of the observed period, children with the highest risk of overweight and obesity were from families with high and middle educational, employment status and income level of the family, while at the end of the period, children from families with low socioeconomic status are at the highest risk. Within this 15 years period, the health status of first graders' families worsened, with a statistically significant increase in the prevalence of family members diagnosed or treated for hypercholesterolemia, hypertension, and type 2 diabetes. Children from families with disorders in the parents' health status have increased risk of overweight and obesity compared to those with healthy parents. Within the last 7 years, overweight and obesity among mothers and first graders and obesity among their fathers increased statistically significantly. Children from families where both parents are with obesity have a twofold increased risk of being overweight, threefold increased risk of being with obesity, and a fourfold increased risk of being with severe obesity compared to children who do not have parents with obesity. Parents also strongly underestimate the nutritional status of children with overweight and obesity, and in the period 2016-2023, a deterioration of the objectivity of their assessment was observed. About 80% of parents of children with overweight and about 30% of parents of children with obesity perceive their children's weight status as normal. And I would like to mention a few measures that we think needs to be introduced, implemented to be able to counteract this negative trend for increase in the childhood obesity levels. First of all, the COSI initiative proves itself as a valuable tool in Bulgaria for outlining the temporal trends, periodic monitoring and assessment of anthropometric status and risk factors for overweight and obesity. The highlighted by the analysis negative temporal trend for increase in the prevalence of overweight and obesity among the Bulgarian first graders calls for urgent, wide-scale and multi-sectoral measures to combat the worsening childhood obesity epidemic in the country. There is also a strong necessity for the development and integration among the general practitioners in the country of a national system for standardized regular measurement of children and use of the WHO growth reference for assessment of the nutritional status. Children identified with obesity and severe obesity should be referred to as a pediatrician for further evaluation and follow-up. At the national level, it is also necessary to develop and integrate into the educational system at all levels a health education program with an emphasis on the acquisition of appropriate knowledge, skills, and attitudes from the children for a healthy lifestyle, balanced nutrition, and sufficient physical activity. It is imperative also to be created under the umbrella of the Ministry of Health a data portal providing reliable health information to the population and the parents in Bulgaria to help them make informed choices in their everyday life and evaluate their children's nutritional status. The presented results call also for the need to develop, implement, and finance programs to address the childhood obesity epidemic in the country, with a special focus on at-risk subgroups of children and their parents, including rural population, low socioeconomic status groups, parents, and the family environment. I would like to thank you very much for your attention and to apologize that I won't be able to be present at the discussion part of the scientific session, but I would like to leave my contact details in case anybody wants to reach out, and will be more than glad to join efforts in the attempt to fight the childhood obesity epidemic in our country. Thank you very much again.